I want to give you 3 points today, and I won't be long. I want to give you 3 points today about mountain moving faith, about the power of faith. There are at least 3 things that Jesus was talking to his disciples about in the text. Number 1, he talked to them about, listen, the potential of faith. The potential of faith. He said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, right, move from here to there, and nothing will be impossible to you. Jesus, watch this, he uses the analogy of a mustard seed. Well, if you know anything about a mustard seed, it's one of the tiniest seeds. But listen what Jesus is emphasizing. He's emphasizing that even a small amount of faith can have extraordinary results. I know. It highlights, watch this, I like this, it highlights the potential within each one of us. See, when he tells them this, he tells them, in essence, you got potential in you. There's something in you that may seem small, but if you put it in the master's hand, it could be something great in your life. He said, listen, he said, all I need is just a little bit of faith. Can I tell you this? Often the enemy would try to steal our faith when trouble comes. But Jesus tells them there's potential on the inside of any one of us. One way they use in the natural to move mountains is they use a process called excavation. Watch this. Excavation, see this is why you got to have faith. Excavation can be used to remove only a portion of the mountain. In excavation, they drill and they blast and they listen, they begin to chop away at the mountain. See, this is why our faith has to be consistent, because when my faith is consistent in no matter what I'm in, I begin to chop away at the mountains in my life. My peace start to come back slowly. My joy begin to reverberate slowly when I plant my mustard seed faith. So there's potential in me. When I use my faith, there's potential that things could change and they will be different in my life. Number 2, watch this. He writes down number 2, he talks about faith in action. Watch this. Faith, can I tell you this? It's not merely passive believing. Faith ain't passive believing. I know sometimes we live in a world today that tells us faith is just passive believing. I believe God, I trust him. Faith is not passive believing. Faith requires me to do something. Faith requires for me to do something. The Bible said faith without works is dead, right? Right. Jesus encourages his disciples. How did he move them to action? How did he move them in the text? He told them to do what? He said, speak to the mountain. Sometimes storms don't leave our life because we don't speak to them. He said, listen, your faith is going to require some actions. You got to learn to speak to the things that's bothering you. You got to learn to speak to your finances. Speak on your peace. Speak about your joy. You want a better relationship? I got to learn how to speak to it. You want more strength? I got to learn how to speak to it. He said, listen, he said, faith, disciples, it requires action. He said, listen, the mountain ain't going to move because y'all been hanging out with me. He said the mountain ain't going to move just because you came to church. Can I tell you this week, mountains didn't move the last 2 weeks just because I was a pastor, just because I came to prayer every day. But that mountains didn't move just because I was in worship and in alignment with God. But you know what? Faith came and peace came when I put some action to it. When I told peace to be still. When I told my joy to come back. When I told my strength, you got to give it back to me. When I said I'm whole when I didn't even feel whole. Faith, listen, he tells them, listen, if you're going to move mountains, your faith requires action. Mm-hmm. He encouraged the disciples. Look, he said, speak to the mountain. Watch this. He said, listen, don't ask the mountain to move. That ain't what he said in the text. He commanded the mountain to move. And listen, not only do God gives us the ability to our faith to command mountains to move, but watch what he does. He gives us the ability to say where we want the mountain to go. He says, speak to your mountain and tell it to move from here to there. I like that kind of power, the kind of power where I can tell things, get out of my life and go back where you came from. I like that kind of strength. You can't get that in the gym because you can work out every day and you eat the wrong stuff and it still come back. But can I tell you this today? In God's power, I can mess up, but I can come back under the blood and tell the mountain to move again. To the mountain. He said, tell it to move from here to there. This demonstrates the active role that faith plays in our life. When we have faith, watch this. I need you to catch this today. When we have faith, it compels us to walk in obedience. When I got faith, you know what? Nobody ain't got to tell me to pray. I realize my strength is in prayer. Listen, nobody got to tell me, come to church Sunday. I can't help but get to the house of the Lord. When I got faith, listen, it compels me to step out in obedience and do what God have called me to do. Listen, pray. Faith will make you pray with conviction. Not just pray. But when I pray with conviction, that means I'm praying knowing God is going to do the very thing that I ask him to do. When you got real faith and your faith is kindled, your prayers are different. You don't just pray, oh, God, make a way for me. God, open a door for me. You know what? You start to pray, God, remove everything that attack my mind. You begin to pray, God, I thank you for my healing. I thank you for my strength. I thank you for my peace. Your prayer changes. Is no more really an asking, but your prayer becomes a powerful request and a demand through the power of God that's in your life. Watch this. It requires us to trust in God's power. Listen, he was telling the disciples, he said, listen, you bring, when you got faith, and your faith requires you to walk in obedience, it prompts you to align. Watch this. He was telling them when he said, speak to the mountain shall be moved. Watch what he's telling them. He's telling them, listen, when you move like that, he said, watch this, your words come in alignment with your actions. What you say? What you say looks like how you live. How you live look like what you say. He said, listen, I need you. All you got to do is align this thing up and you'll see some mountains move. You ain't got to be in poverty no more. You ain't got to suffer no more. Your family ain't got to be depressed no more. Your actions just got to line up with your words. What you say? You know, can I share this with you? When they try to move mountains in the natural, they use a thing called, if you heard, hydraulic erosions. See, this is what I want you to know about faith. Watch this. What's that? You say, what's that? They listen. They realize that mountains are big. And they realize sometimes you just can't take them down. Right? So listen, over an extended period of time, they use a process called hydraulic erosion. Water, they allow a plethora of water to erode the mountain through the process of the rivers and the glacier. What happens with this? It begins after the water sits in anything so long. Y'all know we just had some bed frames we looked at that sat in water a little bit too long. Can I tell you this? And what it did after a while, it messed them nice bed frames up. Can I tell you this? Our faith is like that sometimes. God said, listen, I'll use hydraulic erosion because if you keep putting your faith into a situation, he said, I'll begin to eat it away. I'll begin to take it away. I'll begin to tear it down. You may not see it tonight. You may not see it tomorrow. You may not see it next year. But if you keep applying your faith, I'll eat it away. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we can't wait the process. But God said, listen, you in the process. He said, I'm eating it away. I'm eating those people that came against you away. He said, I'm eating that storm away. He said, I put some water on the mountain. In essence, I put some faith into it. I put some belief that God is going to do what he said he's going to do. And then the mountain is going to move. The thing I like about this, that God will move things that we wasn't expecting to be moved. Sometimes things have to move out of our lives that we never plan to be moved. You have to be okay with it. You have to be cool with it because listen, God is just using hydraulic erosions. I'm eating away the thing that's killing you. I'm eating away the thing that's been keeping you down, keeping you depressed, keeping you in struggle. Number 3, I want you to write it down. I'm about done today. Number 3, listen. I got to overcome. He was telling them, listen, you got to overcome the impossible. Can I tell you this? Anybody ever had an impossible situation? I'm talking about really impossible. You wasn't qualified. You wasn't even called to it. You wasn't even made for it. But God said, do it. Have anybody ever had something that ain't even in your makeup? You ain't even had that experience before, and you saying, God, how you going to bring me out of this? How are you going to do this? Listen, he told them, he said, listen, you got to have power to overcome the impossible. Watch what he says, including this verse, and I'm done today. It assures him, watch this, he tells them this, that nothing is impossible. That's what he said in the verse. He said nothing is impossible for you. Watch this. Jesus, he's reminding his disciples and us that faith, he was telling them that faith has the ability to overcome the insurmountable. When we face seemingly impossible situations and mountains in our life, watch what faith does. Faith allows us, this is very important, faith, it allows us to see beyond the limitations and trust in God's limitless power. Listen, when I got faith, it allows me to see beyond what's limiting me and allow me to see what God is doing for me. He said, listen, the reason you couldn't cast the boy out, the demon out of the boy, is because you couldn't see what I'm doing in your life. He said, you seen how bad he was having convulsions. You seen him throwing himself in the fire and throwing himself in the water, but you didn't see how big our God is. You didn't see that I'm greater than anything that could challenge you, than anything that could test you. You didn't see that. Oh, he told them, no, he said, listen, I need you to grab this. He tells them, all things are possible. And he is the one, this is what we got to know, because sometimes mountains don't move because we're trying to move the mountain. But mountains move only because God is the one with the power to move the mountain. Can I tell you today? All you got to do is put it in God's hands. All you got to do is say, God, you be my mountain mover. You be my deliverer. You be my comfort. You be my strength. Watch this today. Watch this today. Watch this today. They use a thing in moving mountains called geographical engineering. I said that earlier. You know what geographical engineering does, and this what some of us, amen, must know about when we have faith. What geographical engineering does, it designs and draws up, and it changes the slope of the stabilization. This what faith does. Faith changes your stabilization. You ain't got to be in and out. You ain't got to be up and down. You ain't got to be here and there. What faith does when you're obedient to it and walk in it and your words match your actions, it stabilizes you. It lets you know, listen, I'm going to be all right when things ain't all right. When faith stabilizes you, when your enemies come against you, you still know everything going to be all right. When faith stabilizes you, he's going to put the people out of your life that needs to be out of your life. And people that's in your life. When faith stabilizes you, you ain't got to quit. You ain't got to give up. You ain't got to succumb. You ain't got to agree with everything. All you got to do is trust in who God is. He said, listen. God said, I change. He was trying to let his disciples know, I change the geographical location in your life. He said, I move you from here to way over there somewhere. You know what? When faith is in your life, people gonna wonder how you got peace still, how you got joy still. I know they say I should be in the bed, laying down, broke down, busted and disgusted. But when you got faith, you know everything that God does is good. And you know he's able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all I can think or even ask. Listen. Faith changed the landscape of your life. It changed where you're located geographically in the spirit.
It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I